Welcome to another episode of Reframe and Reclaim. I'm Jen Harris.
And I am Courtney Huckabee.
And Courtney and I just got back from a great conference with the National Association of Social Workers, the New Mexico Chapter. We spent a few days in Albuquerque and we had a great conference meeting new people. Their theme this year was Rekindling Connections, Rebuilding Communities. And I think it was a great theme. They stuck to the theme and executed it flawlessly.
And I think that we, being Texans, coming in from out of state, there's a lot of people who came from out of state to this conference. I think it was so wonderful to see people from social work, professional counselors, law enforcement, education, all being there to support the social work conference and reconnecting there.
Yeah, and I was really impressed too, the variety of presentations that were offered. There's so much education going on while we were there. And all the responses we heard were that there were great presentations, great networking. And so kudos to you, NASW.
Great job. Yes, we were so excited. We met so many professionals in New Mexico, across the United States, and we were so excited to be a part of the New Mexico community for social workers.
Yeah, so along with their theme of rekindling connections, Courtney and I met some amazing people at the conference and that are doing great work within their own communities. Everything from financial assistance and how finances can impact your everyday life. We kind of talk about that a little bit in the book, as well as how politics can play a role in your work, in your everyday work, and how management, being in middle management, or how people are receive the culture of your business, how that works and how you can improve that. So I picked up a lot, even though I'm not a counselor, I'm not a social worker. It was very educational for me as well.
I'll say I attended many breakout sessions, everything from, the indigenous people and the populations that are served there to, like you said, the politics of the world right now. And a lot of people feeling very differently, but how we can connect and find the and, which is really wonderful. Everything from neurodivergence and cognitive neuroscientists to law and ethics. It was just a really great, diverse group of people who came through to make sure that their communities were served and how we could better connect with our communities when we come back home.
Yes. And then Courtney also presented at the conference, and she did an amazing job. We've had great feedback. But Courtney, do you want to tell us a little about the presentation and what the big key takeaways you heard from people?
Yeah, so our presentation was about cognitive congestion and about how clutter can really impact our physical, mental, emotional, social well-being. And so we really compiled a lot of our research from our book and additional research afterwards about how things in our daily life, our home environments can really impact ourselves.
And you don't even notice it sometimes. You don't realize how much of an effect it really is having on you.
It really can. And so we were really excited to find some new research and find some really great connections further. We used one of the surveys from the Institute of Challenging Disorganization, and it's called the Clutter Quality of Life Scale. And we asked a lot of our professionals that we met with to fill the scale out, complete this 18-question survey on their own, just to see how clutter impacts their life and quality of life personally. And many people were really surprised by their ratings. Some people had more self-awareness than others of like, oh yeah, I know it's challenging for me, or I know I have certain steps and routines that I do to make sure it doesn't impact me as much. But we heard lots of stories about how they have loved ones, friends, or have seen in their work how clutter could really impact. And so it was really great to hear that what we were, writing about and speaking about was well received, and that people were really finding it helpful to connect with them in their communities as well.
Yes. And one of the things that I heard a lot from the presentation was how clutter can affect children. And that was one of our big statistics that a lot of people really took with them. And so they would take back to their communities and, use in their daily work. And for those of you that don't know, the stat is that children who grow up in highly cluttered homes tend to score lower on tests of cognitive ability and self-regulatory capabilities. So, Courtney, can you break that down for us in layman's terms?
So what that means is that children who grow up in home environments that are highly cluttered This is not going to just be, like a little bit of laundry on the floor, but really, congested, chaotic,
Mhm.
disorganized. They really have a hard time with how they perform on academic scales. So the achievement scales and the cognitive ability scales, they actually have less working memory, less focus, and less concentration because of the clutter in their home environments, even whenever those tests and assessments are in the schools.
Mm.
And additionally, they have challenges with self regulation. That's the emotional regulation. It's how we manage and handle our emotions, big emotions, how we cope with and make sure that we're resilient in those situations. So, children who grow up in homes that are highly cluttered actually have difficulty with emotional regulation.
Mm. Yeah, and that was like a really big light bulb moment for lots of people. And I think because once they thought about it, they could see that reflected back with either their clients or their communities
Well,
where they serve.
and you think about it, as adults, we do have more agency and control of how we have our environment, how we live, our lifestyles, and children really don't have that
Yeah.
control and agency. So maybe I choose to live this way, but I don't realize how much it may impact those living with me. And especially if I have children, they have less voice, they have less control, and they have less executive function on how to manage clutter too.
Right. And this really shows how clutter is a family and community concern, and it's doesn't just affect the person whose stuff it is, it affects the other people living there. And that's what we heard too. People would come up to our table and say, well, it's not necessarily me, but it's so and so, or it's not
Yeah.
necessarily me, but maybe it's even their parent or another family member, and they're worried about, after they pass, what am I going to inherit? And I'm going to have all this overwhelm whenever I
Mhm.
then have to take on all of their things.
And there were people in our, presentation as we were speaking, and we were talking about people who collected things or things that were meaningful to
Mhm.
them. And there was some really interesting insight to, yes, I do need all of those things. So again, our presentation in our book is not about minimizing. It's not about undervaluing things or things that are important to you. It's just finding what is meaningful for your life and really letting go of the things that aren't as meaningful, aren't as useful, or aren't as valuable to you personally.
Yes. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah. So again, we really enjoyed being with New Mexico this summer. We hope to be back again. And if you have read our book, or if you're curious about our book, it is available online. You can find it on most online retailers, Amazon,
Mhm.
Borders. You can also find it in audiobook as well. You can find it in ebook as well. And we would just love for you just to have this as a resource for you personally or your family. And give us some feedback if you have any questions or if you have any experiences with disorganization or clutter, or if you really take the chance to take these 7 steps and practice them, put them into application in your life. We'd love to hear your feedback about that.
And if a hardback copy isn't what you're looking for, we have it on audiobook. We also have an ebook version. So we tried to accommodate it for everyone so everyone could get the information and just take what's applicable for you. So thanks again for tuning in to another episode. Thank you again to New Mexico and the National Association of Social Workers. We had a wonderful time and we hope to see you again next year at the conference and next week on the podcast.